Welcome everybody to our webinar. My name is Christina Dooley. I am the founder of Estrela Consulting, which is a full service college planning business, and I am a certified educational planner. I work with students from all over the world who are navigating the increasingly more complex college search process. And my background, I have worked as both a school-based college counselor in a past life and also as a college admission representative. And I'm thrilled tonight because this is an incredibly busy time of year for everyone who works on the admission side. And I know we have some of you who are also joining us as participants this evening, but I am feeling very fortunate that I was able to have these wonderful folks join us for the webinar because I know you're busy. So thank you for taking the time. Our panel tonight is focused on honors colleges and programs at public institutions. And I was sharing before we came live on the webinar with our panelists that I selfishly was interested in this topic because many years ago, I had the opportunity to present at a national conference on this topic with an incredible group of admission folks representing a number of different institutions. And I felt like the content was very valuable to the people that joined us because there were a lot of questions that came up, a lot of myths about what these programs are like, but more than anything, a lot of uncertainty about what exactly the benefits are for students and who would be the best fit students for programs like this. And so I thought I would gather three of the top people and places that offer these programs to join us and pull the curtain back to share some of these, the facts and information about these different topics. So without further ado, I would actually like my panelists to introduce themselves and share a little bit about them and their institution. And I'm going to go ahead and start with Angela, if that's okay.
Great. Thank you so much for having me, Christina. I appreciate it. I'm Angela Carter, and I'm a student recruitment coordinator at Barrett the Honors College at Arizona State University. And I am also the proud parent of a Barrett graduate.
Perfect. Thank you. Rebecca.
Right. Hello, everyone. Again, Christina, thank you for also allowing me to be a part of this panel. My name is Rebecca Donovan. I work at the Lewis Honors College at the University of Kentucky as the Director of Recruitment and Admission for the college, and I'm glad to be here with everyone.
Thanks, Rebecca. Dale.
Well, hello, everyone. And again, thanks for having us and for this forum, which I hope will be very helpful to everyone. My name is Deyono Nishola. I'm the Director of Admissions for the Schreier Honors College at Penn State.
Perfect. Thank you. And just one housekeeping item. I mentioned in the invitation for this event that we would keep this succinct. So our goal is to cover a lot of content in about 30 minutes, but we will also allow a bit of time at the end for some Q&A. And so for those who are joining us live, please feel free to put any questions that you have for either the group as a whole or for individual panelists in the Q&A, and I will monitor that so that I can then field those questions to our panelists either throughout or at the end. So if we're not able to get through it in the middle, we will get to it at the end. So feel free to do that. So without further ado, I think the real main question that starts off most people's consideration when they think about honors colleges and programs is really, what is the benefit? What would make a student decide to look at one of your institutions and these particular programs versus potentially a highly selective private school? I'll use that as an example. And I'm sure that knowing what I know about your institutions, that probably is some of your student population that's looking at you are also looking at some of those schools. So I don't know who, maybe Rebecca, if you want to maybe kick us off and share, why would a student even consider looking at a public university honors college or program over potentially a private selective college?
Sure. I think if you're looking at honors programs and colleges, it's definitely important to kind of look at the specific benefits that each program might offer. You'll find some that are fairly common across the board. A lot of institutions will offer some sort of priority registration or something like that for students if they're a part of an honors program or college. I don't necessarily think that's the best benefit, although students do love that. But if you're looking at a public institution, a lot of benefits come with going to the large public state school or institutions that are offered. So tons of research opportunities, education abroad opportunities, great partnerships for co-ops and internships. So you have all of that access if you come to a large state public institution, but then considering honors as part of that can give you that kind of smaller private school, maybe liberal arts college feel where you still really get to know other people in the classroom, you know your peers, and you really get to build those relationships with faculty members. So I think when I'm kind of pitching honors at UK, I often tell students, if you want to come to a large state school and have all those great opportunities, but the size is a little bit intimidating to you, honors can really kind of make that community a lot smaller from you right off the bat, and you're surrounded by very like-minded students.
That's great. Any additional pieces to add, Deo or Angela? Would you agree with this?
Yeah, I would just add, and I completely agree with everything that Rebecca said. Look at the reputation of the university itself. I like to tell students that when they come to the Schreier Honors College, they're not siloed into this, highly achieving community, but they are still very much part of the general Penn State population. But I also encourage students to look at honors as an enrichment, an opportunity for you to customize your education, to prioritize where you want to spend your time and where you want to spend your energies, and use your honors options to do just that. It allows you, Dean likes to say that Schreier opens up the university in a very horizontal fashion, that you get to sample from all across the university, either with your thesis option and the research opportunities, those open up to you, or taking courses in areas that are adjacent to or very different from where your major or minors are. So look at think a little bit about what you want to do, what you want to get out of this next area, step of your education, and then look for a place that gives you the opportunity and the flexibility and the challenge that you're looking for.
That's great. Angela?
Yeah, and I want to add that what we like to say is that you really have the best of both worlds. You have the resources of the larger institution, but the smaller community of like-minded, motivated students that really connect, and you can leverage the name of your institution or being in the honors college for postgraduate or undergraduate experiences, that it really carries some weight when future employers or grad programs see that you were in an honors program and that you continue to challenge yourself at the college level. It really means a lot to your opportunities down the road. So I concur with what everyone else has said and add that.
So in terms of, and Rebecca, you kind of touched on this a little bit, in terms of the actual tangible benefits that students might experience, can each of you share at your individual institutions, what are those things that a student can expect to receive? And as an aside from we understand that they'll be in classes with students who are also probably academically motivated and have rigorous course loads and all those things like that. But what are the things, whether it's scholarship dollars, access to different kinds of housing, experiential opportunities that are not offered to the regular student population at the school? Is there anything like that that's offered at your individual institutions? Angela, do you want to go first?
Yeah. So with Barrett, yes, we offer that priority registration for our students, which is, it's something that's pretty big. You get the schedule that you want. Ours is a week before general population starts to register. So that's something that's big. We do have our own residential community. And if you speak with Barrett students, I think that is one of the benefits as well, is that you really are connected with, as I said before, these scholars, these motivated scholars. We have our own study abroad program. Our professors are the ones that take students on the study abroad program, so you get honors credit for that. We have our own coordinator in office dedicated for finding research and internship opportunities for Barrett students only. And we have over 100 community partners. Being in Phoenix, we're 5th largest city in the country, so we have a lot of community partners. And you know, Barrett's Craig and Barbara Barrett. Craig is this retired CEO of Intel. Gave us this generous donation, and that's what really, you know, why we have it named Barrett. A lot of connection in the Valley with finding these opportunities for our students. 3-tiered advising system within our college. So you have the college major, an honors major, and a faculty honors advisor within our university. So they get a lot of help and support and mentorship along the way as well. And as I said earlier, you really can leverage all of that for those opportunities, because they really see, you know, when it comes to all things being equal, you have a student in the honors college and you have a student in the general population vying for some of these opportunities. You know, the honor students often rise to the top because of that name recognition.
That's a really good point. Deo, are there any tangible benefits at Penn State for the students who are in Schreyer?
Yeah, so as we mentioned earlier, we have some things in common. I think the uniqueness of our programs really comes from the nuances, if you will, right? So at Penn State, we also have priority registration. What does that do for you? What I tell students is that that is the biggest opportunity that you have to customize your education in ways that make sense for you. You have 35 credits of honors credits that you have to take over those 4 years, with the exception of a 2-year, two course sequence that you take in your first year. You have really the freedom to pick what you want to choose for honors, and students use very different strategies. So, you know, you're going to register at the same time that graduating seniors are registering, which is if you're a first-year student, about 4 weeks before everybody else in your first-year class gets to register. And so that really is a tremendous opportunity that opens up the rest of the university to you. We do have honors community. What I tell students is, because of the flexibility to take classes that you want to take for honors, really living in honors housing is the primary way that you form community with similarly minded people who are as focused on inquiry and learning as you are. So there are 2 residence halls at the University Park campus that are centrally located on campus where Schreyer students live. What's nice is that they are not isolated even within honors housing, because about 20 to 25% of students who live in honors housing are non-Schreyer scholars. So your roommates will almost certainly be a Schreyer scholar, but the person down the hall, across the way, the friend that you meet in the music room while you're practicing, or the grandfather clock lounge, could be a non-Schreyer scholar. And that, I think, is fantastic. My favorite reason for students to choose to live in honors housing is the fact that all of our offices, including the dean's office, are also in those residence halls. So you can walk in the back door of Atherton, and if you look straight through the glass wall and you see the double doors open, you know that the dean is in residence, as they say, and available to meet with you. He loves walk-in students. And so that kind of access really makes leveraging the support that you need to be successful and to learn about and take advantage of opportunities really, really handy. So we have our own coordinator of study abroad programs that works with faculty to curate special study abroad programs for our Schreyer scholars. We have an amazing person in the person of Lisa Kaczynski. She is famous in our eyes anyway, because of the tremendous efforts that she puts into getting to know her students and finding mentorship opportunities to help our students find the right next career move, all of that. Students get $5,000 a year, an academic scholarship. Mr. Schreyer gave what amounted to 2 gifts, totaling over $60 million to start the Honors College 25 years ago. And one of the things that he was emphatic about was that we put some tangible resources behind students who choose to come to the Honors College because they have options, right? And choosing to go to a public land grant university albeit one with great resources, tremendous opportunities, is still a choice that some people might scratch their head about. So this $5,000 a year is our way of saying we see you, we recognize you, and we want you to know that we are going to support you throughout your time. There's additional funding for scholarships to fund things like study abroad and research. I could go on, but I will stop there because I think that at the end of the day, it's about you just getting a taste at this point and then doing the research to help get you more in tune with all the things that are there to offer. I will stick the website for the Honors College in the chat so you can click on that and learn more.
Awesome. Thank you, Theo. Rebecca, do you have something to add?
Sure. A lot of the benefits that were mentioned previously, we also have some very similar ones. And like Deo mentioned, it's all about kind of how your university is utilizing those. And so they're a little bit different, but very similar. So we also have our residential housing for our honors students. We call it the community of scholars. When Deo was sharing about their residential community, very similar in its aspects. We also have some non-honors students there. And in many ways, our community was modeled after the Schreyer Honors College model. So that's why we see a lot of similarities there. So we do have that space available for students. It's right in the central heart of campus. And again, that kind of binding factor for all of our students is that they are like-minded, kind of high-achieving, academically minded students. But what's great about it is you're going to be surrounded by students of all different backgrounds, major backgrounds, where they're from, all of the different ways that kind of make each student unique. And you can bring all those perspectives together, both in your residence hall and in your honors classes. And I think that's something that's really unique about honors in general. We have our own physical academic space as well. So similarly, we have those offices that are right there, very close proximity to our students, where they're living. And we have a team of 5 advisors available to students. So also similar to what Angela mentioned, you're going to have your primary major advisor, but you would also have an additional honors advisor who's there to help make sure you're getting your honors requirements in, fitting it all in, and anything else you want to do that's going to really help get you to that next step, whatever that might be after you graduate. We also have a separate team of 5 Center for Personal Development counselors, and they're really dedicated to kind of everything outside of that classroom aspect. So helping you find those great study abroad opportunities, whether that be a honors faculty-led program or something that's totally different. Maybe you want to do research abroad, or as you're applying for graduate schools, helping prepare you for that. They also focus a lot on students' well-being. So they're just there, a great first stop. If you have any questions, you don't know where to go, you can really get a hands-on approach if you're in honors and have somebody to kind of navigate that whole process with you starting freshman year all the way through senior year. I won't go into all of the benefits and things. We've got short time, but I will also say we are working on additional programs for students. We have a lot of pre-professional students. So we have a partnership called the Early Assurance Program that we have for students who are interested in attending UK's College of Medicine. So honor students are able to apply for that as well. And it essentially, if students are accepted, would provide them with that guaranteed interview for UK's College of Medicine. So we continue to work out those partnerships as well.
That's great to know. The partnership piece is something that I think a lot of families may not be familiar with, that there are some of those benefits that you get in addition to those things like housing and priority registration. There's some really long-term benefits, I would say. So now we're going to get into what I think a lot of folks listening are really interested in, and that is the application process, and very much a lot of interest in who are the students that you would like for your honors colleges and programs. Are there certain metrics that you're looking for, things that they need to have coming in, whether that's a certain, you're looking for obviously a level of rigor. Does that mean an X number of advanced placement courses, an IB program? Are you looking for students who do exceptionally well in terms of their interviews? I know many of you or all of you might offer interviews for students. And then in terms of the actual application process, I think there's a separate process for all of your schools, if I'm correct, as in terms of a checkbox and then potentially some additional things. So I guess just to keep things more general, Can you share with us what are some of the really high level things that are required or that you're looking at when you are looking at applicants to your programs? Deo, why don't you kick us off with this one?
Sure. Yes, so there is a separate application. I will say right now, so that you can put it on the sticky side of your mind, that we have an application deadline of December 5th. So it's coming right up. Having said that, this application is really designed to help us get to know you. We don't have any minimum requirements. I will say that the typical Shire scholar is in the top 5 to 10% of their graduating class. But I will also tell you that we often turn away the valedictorian, right? So it's not just about the grades. We want to see your academic performance. It's an honors college, so high achievement is important to us. But not just high achievement for high achievement's sake. One of the questions on the application is, why did you take the classes that you took in high school? Not just that you've taken them, but why? What are you gaining out of it? Our application does consist of 2 essays. They're 800 words each, and a maximum of 200 words on the 8 short answer questions that we have. We will look at your academic record that you submitted with your Penn State application. And the process really quickly, also 2 to 4 letters of recommendations that can be written by teachers, counselors, anyone that knows you well and can speak to you in terms of what the Honors College finds valuable, right? So we get your applications. We have 2 faculty readers read your application. They are going to read and rate your application within the context of the 40 we give them to read. So all they will see are your essay responses, your short answer responses, and the letters of recommendation. So the extent to which you can respond to the prompt, but tell us who you are in the process of doing that is going to be very, very important, right? Yes, it is a subjective process, but it is also one that is very rigorous because we train with our readers and tell them what we're looking for. My staff and I will read your academic record while your essays are being read, and we are going to rate you academically within the context of your school. So thank goodness for the Common App, because high school profiles are loaded to the Common App, and that gives us a wealth of information about your school and not comparing you to students from every other school in the United States. We want to know within the context of that high school, how successfully and how broadly you challenged yourself. What was available to you? How broadly did you take advantage of those opportunities, and how well did you do? If you have the opportunity, if you apply by November 1, which is now behind us, you are invited to participate in our voluntary alumni interview program. It is not you're not disadvantaged if you choose not to do the interview or if you're not able to get one. But it's there as an opportunity for us to hear from someone who has gone through the program about what they think your prospects are. It may or may not be used in our review. Again, it's just there. It's another opportunity to know you better. We will use all of those ratings to make our final selections. And just to give you some context, we will, at the end of the day, probably receive about 4,500 applications, and we will make about 800 to 900 offers. So.
Can I ask a quick question, follow-up question
Sure.
with that? Because you have faculty reviewing, do you find ever that there's from the faculty review that there are students that rise to the top, but they're not rising to the top in the academic side? And what do you do in those situations?
Yes, both ways. We have all sorts of what we call disparities. 2 readers read that same application, but because the applications are randomly assigned, the ratings can sometimes be a disparity. But I will say that about 80 or so %, the 2 readers are incongruent about where that student rates. If a student has really good ratings from readers, but the academic rating is low, we frankly will not offer admission to that student. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have a track record of being able to be successful academically in the Honors College, we won't admit you, because you have to maintain a 3.4 GPA all your time with us. We want you to be successful, right? If, on the other hand, there's a really high academic rating, but the readers don't agree, their ratings are not as high, you also will not get an offer of admission. because, again, what we've asked them to do is assess whether or not the student has the ability, willingness, and demonstrates that they have what it takes to take advantage of the opportunities we have available.
Thank you, Deo.
Mhm.
Rebecca, anything to add in terms of your review process?
Sure. So we don't have a separate application for the Lewis Honors College. Students can actually apply to honors when they're applying to UK. Our deadline is also coming up very soon though. So if you are applying, December 1st is the date you need to be aware of. All you would need to do in order to apply to the Lewis Honors College is one additional essay on your Common App or UK application. So we will, of course, read that essay. We'll also read your general admissions essay and pretty much everything else on your application. So we're going to take into consideration activities and involvement, leadership responsibilities, or potential for leadership, even if you haven't held those top roles. Are you demonstrating those qualities somewhere else in your application? Work experience. Of course, rigor of coursework. We're going to see your transcript as well. It's important to note that we are test optional. The University of Kentucky is test optional, and so we are as well. And so you won't be penalized if you were to decide to not submit test scores. We have always weighted your GPA higher anyway. So now we're just really going to use those test scores if it would better enhance your application. So if you are having those on file, you know, we're only going to use it if it's going to make you a more outstanding student in our eyes. It would never prevent you from being admitted to honors. We will also very similarly have 2 staff and faculty reviewers, and a separate team is reviewing the academic portion as well. So we don't have minimum benchmarks for GPA or test score. We're very much holistic, but similar to what Deo was saying as well, is it is kind of the whole package. If you have stellar academic scores, but you don't really do as well on the rest of your application, we can tell you didn't put in the effort and you want to be a part of the honors community, then you may not be admitted. And on the flip side, if you've got a really, really great rest of your application, but you have maybe not done so well academically, that could also hurt your chances of being admitted. So we are looking at everything kind of across the board. But I always tell students, if you're putting in a lot of effort and really showcasing what you've done throughout high school, that's going to make you a quality applicant. Don't try to write your essay to the staff and faculty. We have a huge team reviewing these, so you probably cannot write to everybody on that team. We really want to get to know you, what you're passionate about, and what change you might bring to our college as well.
I feel like that advice is transferable to students going through the general application process as well, Rebecca. We need to can that quote up and send it out to everyone. So we're constantly telling our students that you don't know who's on the other side, and the whole purpose of essays in general is to give another perspective of who you are, because there's only so much that you can relay in numeric form. And so I feel like there's a lot of opportunity in those essays. So it's not a gotcha moment, which I think some students feel like this is where they're trying to find, what am I supposed to say here? And so I like that, that response. One quick follow-up question. So you mentioned testing. So are you seeing, and anyone can answer this actually, in terms of acceptance percentages of students who've submitted scores or not submitted scores for the honors colleges and programs, are you seeing a higher percentage accepted who are submitting scores? I know many selective institutions over this past year have released that kind of data. Have any of you seen that?
So
we're test blind, so we don't see scores at all.
We don't either. We don't require tests for Schreier. However, because Penn State is assessing whether or not we're going to stay test optional, we had a meeting with the admissions folks the other day, and Schreier scholars as a whole are submitting scores at a higher level in the general population than non-Schreier scholars. And it makes sense, right? Their test scores are good. They're above average for the most part. So if they have the option to submit, they are submitting at a higher level. But again, even before Penn State was test optional, we didn't use test scores.
That's
I would
helpful.
echo that as well. That's pretty similar to us. We do see, probably in respective to the whole freshman applicant at UK, we do see a higher percentage of students submitting those test scores. But again, we've always weighted the GPA higher. So for us, our process hasn't changed too much.
So you're hearing it from these folks that If you don't submit test scores, you're not at a disadvantage. So even if those percentages, I know there's a lot of families now are correlating that, and saying, oh, they're accepting a higher percentage of kids with those high test scores, but the correlation, like Deo mentioned, it just happens to be that those students who are scoring high on tests tend to be the students who tend to be high achieving in school and doing very well academically for a lot of times, not all the time, but that's very helpful information, Rebecca. Thank you. Angela, in terms of your answer for Barrett.
Yeah, so Barrett does have a separate application from the ASU application. ASU has rolling admissions where we have specific deadlines. So we had our first deadline pass. We had an early action of November 1st. Got record number of applications this year. And then our next regular decision is January 15th. And then there's 2 more after that, but I do not recommend the further you get down the road, the lower your admission rate is. So your admission rate is higher with our first 2 deadlines. So we also have holistic review. We do require 2 letters of recommendation. One must be academic. The other can be whomever you want. But like Deo said, someone who knows you really well and contextualizes their experience with you. You will be uploading an unofficial copy of your transcript. So we will definitely see academically, hoping for rigor. That is one thing that we do look for. But as I said, we are test blind. We will not see scores at all. And we do not have a minimum GPA that you have to apply. I have denied a 4.0 national merit finalist who put absolutely no effort into the application. And I've admitted a 2.9 student who had medical issues their first year in high school and GPA plummeted. Slowly brought it up, but they were doing outstanding things throughout the trajectory of the high school years. So, GPA is a number. It is something that we do look at. I mean, we want to look at academic performance, but it's not going to be the be all and end all for a student. You will write 1 essay. You've got 2 prompts from which to choose. And you will be submitting your academic information as far as AP scores. If you're doing dual enrollment, IB, there's, obviously room in the application to be able to share any of that information with us as well. And we also have an optional creative supplement. If you want to submit a video of a performance, musical, vocal, theater, if you're a prolific writer and you want to submit essays, you can do that as well. Completely optional, has no bearing on the application. And we also have committees that review these. So it's faculty and staff that, as a recruiter, I also review them. And we really, stress that when faculty are looking at these applications, they are looking at a potential student in their class. So they're looking at it from the intellectual aspect of it, as well as the social aspect of it when reviewing these applications. So, this can be someone's roommate in our community. So that's the social end of it as well. So basically, we always stress just get those applications in earlier, sooner rather than later. Your chances grow exponentially to be admitted versus waiting down the road.
And maybe just with a quick yay or nay from everyone, do you accept transfers into your internal transfers, I should say, into your programs? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
I see
Yep.
nodding heads. Okay, good. I know that comes up sometimes and students feel like they missed the boat and they weren't able to either they didn't do it early enough, or maybe they just didn't realize all the benefits that there are to those programs. So I'm aware of the time, so I want to just mention one more time, if any of the attendees would like to have any questions answered by our panelists, please feel free to put those into the Q&A and we will get those answered. If my panelists, I know Deo, I think you already put your some information in the chat. If you, Angela and Rebecca, if you'd like to put a link in there or any information to share, that would be great. My final question for you is actually a question. This is pulling the curtain back a bit, because having worked in higher ed, I know that this is not a page on any college website, or for the most part, it's not a page, is the this is who should not look at our program. These are the students that we think would not be a good fit for our program. We don't usually advertise that in admission because our job is recruitment. So I'm wondering though, are there certain characteristics of students that you feel like would not be a good fit for your program? And I can probably guess what some of those things would be, but are there things that you would say, you know what, if your student, or if it's a counselor that's watching this, you know, if you have a student who is interested in this or not interested in this, we might not be the right kind of program. Dale, you unmuted really quickly, so I feel like you have an answer.
So I would say that you should look at the mission statement, first of all, for each of us before you apply. And if you can't get on board on one of those mission aspects, then maybe this is not the right place. But here's my go-to statement on who should not apply. The single-mindedly academically focused student should not apply. And because there are tons of programs, we have something called the Millennium Scholars Program at Penn State that is really designed to get you ready for grad school and in STEM. And the goal is to get you into a PhD program. We have accelerated programs for students who want to go and get through medical school really quickly. There are tons of opportunity for students who just want to get to the academics. That's not us. We want you to be very focused on learning, on expanding your knowledge, on so many other things that are adjacent to the academic experience, but also that give you more. We want you to be community-minded. We want you to be looking for ways that you can engage beyond the classroom. We want you to have a global perspective, and we're going to do everything we can to pull you out of the classroom out into the world. So if those things are important to you, then yes. If not, then don't, because you won't enjoy it. And what's the point?
I think that's wonderful advice. And the mission statement piece, I think, is huge as well. And also true to an institution in general. I think if students aren't, you know, on board with the mission of the institution, I think that's really important. Any additional comments to agree?
I would absolutely concur, but also ASU's charter talks about how it is so important to have inclusivity. So we don't want to deter anyone from applying, but at the same time, you know, we value that supportive community. We don't want the cutthroat competitive community that would kind of, you know, be a deterrence for some students. Rather, we really want them to be a part of this supportive community. But again, with valuing inclusivity.
I would agree with what both of them said, but I would also say if you're a student who is not interested in participating in the classroom and you just want to sit there and be in lectures and take notes and then spit it back on a test, honors probably isn't for you. And I would say across the board at probably all our institutions, you are not going to enjoy the class experience. We expect you to be active participants and be very engaged and come forth with your ideas. No one has the right answer, but being willing to back those up and listen to other perspectives in the room. You're somebody who's pretty closed-minded, also might want to consider, is this the best fit? We want students to really engage and wrestle with lots of different perspectives, whatever that class topic might be. So expect to talk in these honors classes. If you don't want to do that, maybe give it a second thought. Not that you can't be introverted. We have plenty of introverted students, but we still want you to be contributing in some way.
Engaged
Yes.
in it, right? Yeah. So along those lines, just really quickly, in terms of retention in your programs, do you find that you lose several students because they don't fit that, you know, that they get there and realize, you know what, this isn't the right kind of pathway for me? Do you see much of that? Not really.
Not for us. We retain the vast majority of our students. To be honest, when we lose students is when they lose motivation to write the thesis at the end. You know, they're in their senior year, they've gotten a job, they have 10 job offers, the salaries look great, and they've just checked out mentally. We have been working, I think, fairly successfully to get students engaged with that thesis earlier and get them engaged enough to want to finish it. But at the end of the day, right, motivation is the key. And so the majority of students who leave the honors college leave at the end, not throughout their time.
That's really interesting. Yeah, and I could see where that would happen. Okay, well, I think we are almost at the end of our 45 minutes total. My last question is a fun one for all of you, maybe a chance to brag about your programs. Do you have any notable alumni that you would like to share, our graduates of your program, or anyone that you know in recent years that have gone on to do something pretty neat that you think others should know about? And I should say, in full disclosure, I didn't let them know I was going to ask this in advance, so I am putting them all on the spot. Or any cool anything that graduates have, even not a specific person, but something, a job or something that you feel like is interesting.
It's hard to pick out just one, right? There's so many amazing things. I will say this, our current dean is a graduate of the University Scholars Program, which is so neat because he comes with his experiences as a student, and he talks all the time about how honors is what clued him into his interest in research and really started him on his journey to become an academic and a scholar. So
that's great. Perfect.
I just wanted to mention that, we don't have quotas. We don't have, anyone can join the Honors College. So one of my former counselees, I used to be a high school counselor, he just graduated in musical theater and he's out there trying to make it in the musical theater world. So I think a lot of students think of hard sciences or engineering when often think of honors, but truly anyone who wants to challenge themselves can be in the honors program.
Yeah.
Angela, I love that example because you are correct.
Yes.
I feel like a lot of the students who we work with who might even have an interest, oftentimes it is the students that tend to be more STEM focused or research focused, not realizing that the creative folks too, there's honors opportunities within that arena as well. But there is a final question in the Q&A, and that's, is there a preference for in-state versus out-of-state students in your admission process?
Nope.
Looks like two no's, potentially one yes. Rebecca?
So not necessarily a preference. We just typically get more in-state applicants. So we kind of reflect a higher percentage of in-state students in our overall population. When we were founded as a college 5 years ago, when Mr. and Mrs. Lewis gave their very large gift to endow the college, they did have a focus on the state of Kentucky. So we do always have that as part of our mission to likely have more students in the Honors College from Kentucky. So kind of a yes, but kind of a no at the same time.
That makes sense. That makes sense though. Well, is there anything else that I did not ask about that you think it's important that you'd like to share, or any myth that you know of, or have heard from families, anything at all that I did not touch on? Deo?
I wanted to amplify what we've said earlier, that Angela said, the idea of diversity is one that I think we all take very, very seriously. And if you think diversity, I want you to open your mind and think about diversity beyond what is talked about in the news. It's not just ethnicity, it is international diversity. It's diversity of thought and discipline, because we really, really believe that if we have all of the voices represented, that we have a stronger honors college and better experiences for our students. So don't count yourself out. Give us the opportunity to review you, because beyond the academics, we're also looking for what you bring into our communities.
That's really helpful. Thank you, Deo. All right. Well, this has been really wonderful. I hope that our attendees have learned a little bit about some of these programs, as well as just in general, the real tangible benefits of looking at these as options. I think that so many students are missing the opportunity by just not exploring them. And I think it's just such a great truly a great opportunity for those students who are looking for engagement, for access to incredible faculty and opportunities, learning opportunities. And I think, Rebecca, you used the phrase, the best of both worlds for students who are looking for maybe that big state experience, a big, in terms of a large institution, but want that intimate learning environment. I think that's another thing that is really valuable about these programs. So our panelists have put contact information and links in the chat. Please feel free to connect with them individually if you have questions about anything that they're doing at their schools. And we really appreciate, again, you taking the time away from your very busy schedules on to application review pretty soon. And we wish you all the best during this recruitment season. I know that admission is not an easy job, and certainly you have a very challenging job making decisions amongst probably some pretty amazing students. So again, thank you for joining us, and thanks for everybody for joining who was listening in, and enjoy the rest of your